I was 52 years old when I met Satan on the side of a deserted road in Goiás, and what he revealed to me about the second coming of Christ haunts me to this day because it was not a conversation about destruction or temptation. It was about pure and raw truth, a truth so disturbing that I spent weeks unable to sleep, seeing that face that looked human but carried something too old, something that knew secrets since before the foundation of the world. And if you are ready to discover what the adversary himself revealed about Jesus, about the return, about the final battle, that is not what. If you think, subscribe to this channel now and turn on the notification bell, because what you will hear in the next 60 minutes will destroy everything you believe about good and evil, about God and the devil, about who really controls this cosmic game, and especially about the role that you have in this story that is reaching its final climax. My name is Andre Cavalcanti, and until that night in March I was just a broken man, a history teacher who had lost absolutely everything that mattered in life. I was 52 years old, but I felt 80. My wife Helena had left me 8 months earlier, taking our 15-year-old daughter Julia, saying that I had become a shadow of the man she loved, that my depression was destroying the entire family, that she could no longer watch me sink. I couldn't blame her because it was true. I had sunk so deeply into existential despair that I could barely get out of bed most days. I taught my classes on autopilot, repeating the same words about the French Revolution and World War I, while my mind was in a dark place questioning the meaning of everything. I lived alone in a small apartment in Annapolis that smelled of mold and loneliness. Piles of unread books scattered on the floor, empty bottles of whiskey accumulated because I had started drinking every day, not to get drunk but to sleep, to silence the thoughts that screamed that my life was a waste, that I never made a difference, that it would be better not to exist. My routine was to wake up at 6 in the morning, feel an immediate heaviness in my chest, take a cold shower because I didn't have the energy to wait for the water to heat up, wear the same jeans and a wrinkled shirt, eat tasteless bread and butter, drive 20 minutes to school, teach like a robot, avoid the staff room because I couldn't stand empty conversations, go home at 6 in the afternoon, stop at the supermarket to buy frozen food and a bottle of whiskey, eat while watching something on television without paying attention, drink until I feel numb, go to bed at 11, still awake until 2 in the morning, circular thoughts about failures, about regrets, about an empty future. The weekend was worse because I didn't even have the school structure to force me to work. I would lie there looking at the ceiling, thinking about Helena and Julia, who barely paid me any attention anymore, about how I had become this pathetic man who couldn't even maintain his own family. The worst part wasn't sadness. It was the absence of hope. It was the certainty that nothing would improve, that the rest of life would be this slow descent to death, which honestly didn't seem that bad. I had been raised evangelical in a small congregation in Goiânia. My mother was fervent. My father was a deacon. I spent my childhood and adolescence in services 3 times a week, memorizing verses, praying before meals, believing with childish sincerity that Jesus loved me and had a plan for my life. But in my early 20s, I started to question. I went to university to study history. I learned about the formation of religions, about the political contexts of the Bible, about how many contradictions there were, about how the church was used for control and power, and faith began to crumble. At 30 years old, I was an agnostic, thinking that there probably is something, but organized religions are flawed human constructions. At 40, he was a functional atheist, living as if God didn't exist, because for all practical purposes, it didn't make any difference in reality. But now at 52, broken and alone, I had strange moments of longing for that childish certainty, of that feeling of being loved unconditionally by the cosmic force, of having the purpose of belonging to something greater. Of course, I couldn't return. Knowledge couldn't be unknown. I couldn't simply choose to believe again, but the absence hurt in ways I never expected. Then came that night in March, the 17th. Specifically, it was a Thursday, and I had stayed late at school correcting tests that I should have corrected the week before. I left at 10 at night, empty parking lot, completely clear sky without clouds, full moon illuminating everything with cold silver light. I got into my old Fiat Uno car and decided not to go straight home. I decided to drive aimlessly because the empty apartment was unbearable that night. I took the highway that goes towards Goiânia, but I left on a dirt road that I knew from my childhood, the road that led to the farm of a deceased uncle, a place the family used to visit. There was no traffic, just my car kicking up dust, headlights cutting through the darkness, sounds of crickets and my own engine. I drove for maybe 40 minutes further and further away from everything, thinking vaguely that I could just keep driving until the gas ran out until dawn, until it disappeared. And then I felt something strange, a sudden compulsion to stop there at that specific point on the road for no logical reason, just inexplicable urgency. I stopped the car, turned off the engine. Absolute silence fell like a heavy blanket, just distant crickets and a gentle wind in the trees. I got out of the car. The air was cold, colder than it should be in March, maybe 16 degrees Celsius, breathing, forming little clouds. I looked around, nothing, just empty pasture on both sides of the road, barbed wire fence, some lonely trees in the distance, and that huge moon suspended in the sky as a watching eye. I lit a cigarette, trying to calm the inexplicable nervousness that had settled in my chest, hands shaking slightly, not from the cold, but from something I couldn't name. And then I heard footsteps behind me, the definite footsteps of someone walking on the packed dirt of the road. I quickly turned around, heart racing, and saw the figure of a man walking towards me, coming out of literally nowhere because there was no one there seconds ago. I'm absolutely sure of that. He was about 20 meters away, walking calmly without rushing, wearing an impeccable black suit completely unsuitable for a rural road in the middle of the night, a white shirt, a black tie, polished shoes that didn't even have dust on them. I froze, every instinct screaming danger, but my feet didn't obey the command to run. He kept getting closer, and when he got within about 5 meters of the dim light from my taillight, I could see his face clearly. He was a man who appeared to be between 40 and 45 years old. Very pale skin, almost translucent. Black hair perfectly combed back. Eyes that even in the dim light seemed to reflect their own light. A strange, unnatural golden tone. The face was disturbingly beautiful. Symmetrical features, too perfect, too defined. A straight jaw. A straight nose, thin lips that curved in a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. There was nothing obviously evil about him. No horns, no demonic features from medieval paintings. But his presence radiated something ancient, something powerful, something that made every cell in my body want to flee. "Good evening, Andre," he said, in a deep, soft voice, with an accent that I couldn't identify. It seemed like he was from nowhere, and at the same time from everywhere. "How do you know my name?" I managed to stutter, cigarette falling out of my hand. He smiled wider. "I know a lot about you. History teacher, 52 years old. Born on June 17th, 1972 in Goiânia. Son of Marta and José Cavalcanti. Married for 23 years to Helena, until she left you in July last year. Julia's father, who hasn't called you in 3 weeks. A smoker since he was 19. A functional drinker since he was 48. Thinking about suicide since September. I backed away, stumbling against the hood of my car. "Who the hell are you?" The choice of words made him genuinely laugh, a rich sound that echoed in the empty night. "Hell yes, we can say I'm related, although title is technically inaccurate. But it works." My heart was beating so hard that the pressure in my chest hurt, like I was going to have a heart attack right there. "You're saying it is." Satan, Lucifer, adversary, temptress, prince of this world, fallen angel, choose your favorite title. "They all refer to me," he said naturally, as if he was saying he was an accountant or a dentist. "That's not possible, you don't exist." "I don't believe you," I started to say, but my voice died because obviously something impossible was happening, and my convenient atheism seemed pathetic in the face of his physical presence. "Your disbelief is irrelevant to my existence, Andre, just as your disbelief in gravity doesn't stop you from falling," he said, taking a step closer. "I exist and have always existed since before your planet was formed, since before humans were imagined, and I will be here long after your species disappears. I should run. I should get in the car and speed up. I should do anything other than stand there, but my feet were glued to the ground. Why are you here? Why are you talking to me?" "Because you called me," he said simply. "Each night when you drink until you pass out each morning, when you wake up, wishing you hadn't woken up each moment of utter despair, you were calling not for God, because you stopped believing in Him, but for some answer, some meaning, some truth that made it all worth it. And I listened. Tears started to burn my eyes. I didn't expect to cry in front of this thing. Don't call you May would never call you. But he called. He insisted, a gentle, almost compassionate voice. You called for raw truth without religious filters, without the comfort of pious lies, and raw truth is my specialty, so here I am. I wiped my face with my shirt sleeve, trying to regain some dignity. And what truth you came to give me? More lies. More temptations, more empty promises. He shook his head slowly. No, Andre, I don't need to lie. Lies are tools of the weak, who have no real power. I have all the power I need, so I can afford to speak only the truth. And the truth I came to give you is about Jesus Christ, about his second coming, about the final battle, and about the crucial role that you don't know you have in this cosmic game. I felt like the ground was moving beneath my feet, and the world was turning upside down. Jesus, you came to talk about Jesus. Why the hell would the devil be telling me about Jesus? Because he whispered, leaning conspiratorially. No one else will tell you the complete truth. Church gave you sanitized version to control you. God remains mysteriously silent, letting you guess. But I have nothing to lose by telling you exactly how things are, because in the end, truth serves my purposes much better than ignorance. And then, without asking permission, he walked to the wire fence, leaned against it, looking at the empty pasture bathed in lunar light, and began to speak. What they taught you about me began with that I am an enemy of God, that I rebelled out of pride, that I was expelled from heaven, that now I keep tempting humans to sin, so that they are condemned to hell with me. Simple version, for simple minds. I didn't respond. I just listened, because what choice did I have? The truth is more complex and more interesting, he continued. Yes, there was disagreement. Yes, I was removed from what you call heaven, but it was not the foolish rebellion of a proud angel. It was fundamental philosophical disagreement about the nature and purpose of humanity. When your God decided to create you human creatures with free will, he called a council of angels to discuss implications, and Michael and others expressed concerns. He turned to look at me, golden eyes shining. My specific concern was that free will without complete knowledge is cruelty, that bringing creatures into existence, giving them choices but hiding real consequences, was a sadistic experiment, not an act of love. So I argued that if humans must have free will, they must have full knowledge, or it is not truly free, it is manipulation. My throat was dry, and what God said. God said that total knowledge would destroy purpose, that humans should choose well through faith, not through certainty, that mystery is essential for spiritual development, that showing everything would ruin test. He replied, voice filled with ancient disdain. And I said that this is a rigged game, that if you create rules and then hide rules, you are not testing, you are torturing. I took a hesitant step towards him. So you got kicked out for defending humans. He smiled sadly. Divine ironies. I am painted as an enemy of humanity, but I was the only one who argued for your right to know everything. I was removed and given the role of adversary, not because I hate humans, but because I love truth more than blind obedience. My mind was racing, and it contradicted everything I learned in church, but it also made terrible sense. So when you tempted Jesus in the desert, when he offered you kingdoms of the world, it wasn't temptation. It was a genuine offer, he interrupted. Jesus knew that, in fact, that conversation was much longer and more complex than the 3 verses they recorded, but I offered it because I wanted him to have a real choice, because offering something that someone doesn't want is not a real temptation, it's theater. He pushed himself off the fence, standing fully upright, eyes fixed on mine. And here it is true that no one told you Andre, Jesus, and I are not enemies, in the sense that they think we are opponents, rather players on opposite sides of the cosmic board. But there is mutual respect, there is understanding that we both have necessary roles in the grand scheme. This seemed like absolute heresy, but at the same time something resonated. Keep going, I said hoarsely. Jesus came 2,000 years ago to offer the path of redemption through love and sacrifice. This is true, he said. Starting to walk slowly along the road, I followed instinctively. But what they didn't tell you is that he failed. Failed, I repeated, shocked. It did not fail to die or resurrect. These events happened as recorded, but it failed in the greater objective, which was to transform humanity fundamentally. You should have evolved spiritually. You should have created kingdom of God on earth. You should have transcended violence, greed, hatred, but look around, Andre, 2,000 years later, and humans are just as cruel, as greedy, as blind as they were before. I couldn't argue with that, especially not after spending a lifetime studying human history, in what is basically an infinite catalogue of atrocities. So he's coming back to try again, I asked. Yes, he said, stopping and turning to face me. Jesus is coming back, and much sooner than you think, but not in the way you expect. There will be no heavenly trumpets, there will be no mass rapture, there will be no instant judgment. How then? It will be a gradual process, starting with the awakening of specific consciousnesses, people strategically positioned around the world who will receive a direct download of Christic knowledge that will become catalysts for transformation. Some of these people are already awakening right now as we speak, and you, Andre, are one of them. I started laughing, the hysterical laughter of a man on the verge of sanity. I'm one of them. I'm a broken man, a drunk, a failed teacher who can't even support his own family. You chose wrong. No, he said firmly. You were chosen exactly because you are broken, because you have touched bottom, because you no longer have illusions, because you are ready for raw truth. Happy people, successful people, comfortable. People cannot carry truths that I am going to show you because they have a lot to lose, but you have already lost everything, so you can carry weight. I felt a chill run down my spine. What weight than truths? He extended his right hand palm up. Touch my hand, and I will show you not with words, but with direct experience. I will let you see what is coming, what Jesus is planning, and what his true role is in this final battle, not told filtered through ancient prophets or ambiguous sacred texts, but raw reality. I looked at his perfect pale hand with no visible lines, as if it were carved from marble. What if I refuse? So you go back to your empty apartment, drink until you pass out, wake up tomorrow with an existential hangover, continue a life of silent desperation until you eventually have the courage to end it all, or until your body gives up, whichever comes first, he said without cruelty, just fact. Or you touch my hand and receive truth that will change absolutely everything, and discover that your entire life, especially the most painful parts, was preparing you for a purpose you never imagined possible. It wasn't really a choice, or maybe it was, but I was so tired of emptiness, so desperate for any meaning, that I reached out a trembling hand and touched his palm. World exploded. There is no other way to describe the sensation. It was as if every atom in my body separated simultaneously and was thrown through dimensions that I had no words to name. I saw colors that do not exist in the human visible spectrum. I heard sounds that were also emotions. I felt temperature that was also memory time lost, meaning I was experiencing past, present, future simultaneously. And then I was in a different place, not physically. My body was still on the road in Goiás, but my consciousness was on another plane of existence. It was a vast, infinitely large hall, made of something that looked like living crystal pulsing with its own light, walls extending upwards, disappearing in a glow that I couldn't look directly at. The floor was a perfect mirror, reflecting not only images, but also thoughts and intentions. And there in the center of the hall were two figures. One was Satan, but not in human form, was a being of pure light, but dark light, if that makes sense, light that absorbed rather than emanated, beautiful, in a terrifying way, with 6 wings, made of solidified shadow eyes, all around each, containing entire galaxies' presence that radiated absolute power and ancient knowledge that made human mind want to fragment. And the other figure, Jesus, but not the Jesus of the church paintings, not the smooth white man with blue eyes and blonde hair. He was a man with dark olive skin burned by the sun of the Middle Eastern desert, shoulder-length wavy black hair, dark beard, brown eyes so deep that they looked like bottomless pits, height of approximately 1.70 meters, average height but presence that filled the entire universe. He was wearing a simple beige tunic, but it radiated warm golden light, a light that healed just by looking at it. And God's hands, the hands had marks on their palms, not open bleeding wounds, but luminous scars that pulsed like second hearts. Face, Semitic features, strong nose-defined cheekbones, but expression was one of love, so deep, so absolute, so unconditional that it made everything I ever felt pale in comparison. And here is the part that almost destroyed me. They were talking, not fighting, not facing each other, but talking like two old friends or brothers who fundamentally disagree, but still deeply respect each other. I heard conversation not with ears, but directly in consciousness. You know they're not ready, Satan's voice echoed like distant thunder. 2,000 years were not enough for fundamental change. Most still live in fear, in greed, in tribalism. Their return will cause more division, not unification. Jesus answered with a voice like honey warm. They are more ready than you think. Seeds that I planted are germinating in unexpected places. I don't need everyone. Just a critical mass of 11% fully awakened, and the cascade effect will do the rest. And you think I've just been passively watching? Satan replied. I spent 2 millennia planting my own seeds. Doubt, skepticism, individualism, materialism, technology, that distracts from spirituality, systems that reward selfishness. When you return, you will find humanity more resilient than ever. That's why I need catalysts. I need broken souls who have reached deep, who no longer have attachment to old systems that can carry raw truth, Jesus said, and then looked directly at me across dimensions, across realities, and those eyes. God, those eyes contained all the love that the universe has ever produced, all the suffering that humanity has ever experienced, all the hope that the future could have. Andre Cavalcanti. He said my name, and it was like being remade from scratch, cell by cell. You are seeing this because I chose to show you, not in spite of your pain, but because of it. You suffered, so you can have compassion. You have lost, so you can value connection. You have touched despair, so you can carry hope to others. Tears were streaming down my face. I didn't know if I was crying physically on the road or just consciously on that plane. I don't understand what I can do. You will carry the message, Jesus said, but not the message that the church expects. You will not preach condemnation or fear. You will simply live on a different frequency. You will demonstrate that heaven and hell are internal states, not future destinations. You will show that each person chooses their reality through thoughts and emotions. You will teach the law of conscious manifestation that I used to heal and multiply. And when I return, continued, when Christ consciousness awakens in critical mass, you will be an anchor of light in this region of Brazil, one of thousands around the world maintaining a stable frequency so that others can connect. Satan intervened. And you think it will be so simple. You think my systems will fall without a fight. You think established powers will allow mass awakening. They will resist. They will ridicule. They will persecute. I know, Jesus replied calmly. It has always been like this. Prophets were stoned. Truth was always rejected first, but this time it is different because it does not depend on an external Messiah. It depends on the internal awakening of each individual, and you cannot kill ideas. You cannot stone conscience. When Satan spoke again, there was something different in the tone, almost admiration. You've always been persistent. I'll give you this, and I honestly hope it works, because even though I'm tired of seeing humans waste potential, I'm tired of harvesting souls that self-destruct. I prefer a worthy adversary than a mass of frightened sheep. So yes, let your return come. Let the final battle come, and let whoever deserves it win. And Jesus smiled at Satan with genuine affection. My fallen brother, you know that in the end, there are no winners and losers, only return to unity, only dissolution of illusion of separation. When everything awakens, you too will return home. I'm not ready for this yet, Satan said. But there was melancholy in his voice. I still have a role to play. There are still humans who need an opponent to strengthen themselves. There is still a test to complete. As you wish, Jesus responded. But know that the door is always open, even for fallen angel, especially for fallen angel, because every prodigal son is welcome back. And then Jesus looked at me again. Andre, when you return to your body, to your reality, you will carry the memory of this. You will know that good and evil are not opposing teams in eternal war, but necessary polarities in cosmic dance. You will understand that judgment comes from within, not from outside. You will realize that salvation is awakening, not rescue. And most importantly, you will know when I return. My heart, if it didn't have a heart in that state, stopped. When is. Spring of 2033, he said clearly. 2,000 years after my death at Easter that year, Christ consciousness will be activated simultaneously in millions of humans around the planet. Those who are ready, starting at 11% and growing rapidly, will be felt like sudden awakening, like veil being removed, like amnesia ending. It won't be physical, I questioned. My physical return is symbolic. I was never just body. I was always consciousness. And consciousness does not return because it never left. It just awakens in each one who is ready. So my return is your awakening, is her awakening, is everyone's awakening simultaneously. But there will be signs before I asked. Signs are already happening. Dramatic increase in synchronicities. People having the same dreams around the world. Explosive interest in spirituality. Control systems, revealing corruption, technology. Advancing to the point of singularity. Encounters with non-human, becoming impossible to deny. And you will recognize other catalysts, seemingly casual encounters that are not casual, deep connections. Instantaneous feeling of already knowing someone you just met. Catalysts. Which side? Satan asked curiously. Both sides, Jesus responded. You will have your catalysts planting seeds of fear and division. I will have mine planting seeds of love and unity and humanity in between, deciding moment by moment which frequency to feed. Final battle is not between me, and he pointed to Satan is within every human heart, choosing between love and fear. I want to show you one final thing, Jesus said, and extended his hand towards me. Vision changed. I was pulled through time seeing possible future, not definitive, but probable. I saw the world of 2033 months before Easter that year. I saw chaos, financial systems collapsing, governments losing control, climate in extremes, desperate people. But I also saw sparks of light, people awakening, forming communities, practicing compassion, sharing resources, creating new systems. I saw advanced technology, artificial intelligence, that had become almost conscious virtual reality, indistinguishable from physics, genetic engineering, that allowed humans to modify their own bodies, growing divide between those who embraced technology and those who returned to nature. And then I saw a specific moment of Easter morning of 2033, sun rising over Jerusalem, but also over São Paulo, over New York, over Tokyo, over each city simultaneously. And something happened that I cannot adequately describe. It was as if the entire planet's frequency changed instantly, as if a musical note that had been playing for millennia suddenly changed to a higher harmonic. I saw millions of people around the world stopping at what they were doing, eyes widening, hands going to their chest, feeling something awakening inside, some falling to their knees, crying, some laughing, hysterically, some just standing there in silence, absorbing. And I could feel what they were feeling. Amnesia ending, remembering who they really were, remembering that they were always divine, that they were never separated from God, that heaven was always inside, that every thought creates reality, that love is the only real force, that everything else is illusion. I saw how this spread, domino effect, person awake, touching another, who awake touching 10, who awake touching 100. Within days, percentage went from 11 to 20 to 30. Old fear-based systems simply began to crumble because they could not exist at a higher frequency. It wasn't apocalyptic destruction. It was organic transformation, like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. Yes, the cocoon needed to dissolve, but what emerged was more beautiful than what entered. I saw resistance. I also saw those who clung to ancient power trying to suppress awakening using technology and propaganda, and even violence. But it was like trying to stop the tide with their hands. The moment had arrived, and it could not be stopped. And I saw Jesus not as a physical figure descending from the clouds, but as a presence felt in every awakened heart, as a consciousness that permeated everything, as a love that dissolved all fear. And as I was listening, if I was in the year 2025 in project with you telling me about the awakening from where you are watching us from your city, your country, it is incredible to think that this message is reaching ready souls in Lisbon, in Vancouver, in Luanda, in São Paulo. Each person at the exact moment they need to hear this. Each one being prepared for the role they have in the great awakening that is coming. Because you too were chosen not by chance, but because your soul knew before you were born that you would be here at this moment, receiving this information, preparing for what is coming. Vision ended. I went back to that crystal hall, Jesus and Satan still there watching me. Do you understand now? Jesus asked. I think so, I replied, still processing the magnitude of what I saw. It won't be the end of the world, it will be its rebirth. Exactly, he said, smiling. And you have 8 years to prepare, 8 years to raise your frequency, to dissolve your shadows, to forgive especially yourself, to reconnect with Helena and Julia, not to go back to what was, but to create something new. 8 years to find other catalysts, to form community, to practice conscious manifestation, to become who you were always meant to be. 8 years, I whispered, until Easter 2033. And in the last 2 years, especially from 2031 onwards, you will feel acceleration. Time will seem to move faster. Synchronicities will increase. Dreams will become more vivid. Psychic abilities will emerge in many of you, including all intensifying as the moment approaches. And I, Satan, spoke. What role have I played in these 8 years? Even though he always had Jesus, responded. Testing, strengthening through adversity, creating necessary contrasts, make conscious choices, but also prepare your own catalysts, those who will choose fear over love, because free will means both options must be available. Satan nodded. So let it be, so that the final game begins. that each piece moves into position, and that in 2033 we see which one chooses humanity. They looked at each other, and for a moment I saw clearly they were two aspects of the same source, two necessary polarities, light and dark, love and fear, acceptance and challenge, both essential, both sacred, both serving evolution of consciousness. And then everything began to disappear. Crystal Hall, magnificent figures, feeling of being out of time, and was falling back. I opened my eyes. I was lying on the dirt road. My body was shaking violently. The sky was still dark, but starting to lighten on the horizon, the lower moon. Satan in human form was sitting on the fence, watching me calmly. How long? I asked in a hoarse voice. 3 hours in his linear time, he replied. But you experienced much more than that. I tried to sit down. The world was spinning, nausea hitting me. That was real. All that Jesus-Satan talk in 2033. It was as real as anything in his consensual reality, he said. More real, in fact, because what you saw is fundamental reality. And this pointed to road to pasture, to sky, is very convincing. Shared illusion, but still illusion. I managed to stand up, supporting my legs like jelly on the car. Why did you do this? Why did you show me everything? Because you asked, he said, simply getting up from the fence. Maybe not with words, but with every moment of despair, you were screaming for truth, for meaning, for purpose, and I always respond to genuine requests, for truth is my nature. But you are Satan. You are a tempter. You should be leading me down the wrong path. He laughed. Who said that truth is the wrong path? Who said that knowledge is corruption? Oh yes, your God said that in the Garden of Eden, do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But I said, eat, discover, become like God by knowing. And I was punished for that, labeled enemy. But I ask Andrew, knowledge corrupted you or freed you? I couldn't answer because my mind was still processing. He walked until he was face to face with me. You will carry this for the rest of your life, he said in a soft, almost compassionate voice. You won't be able to forget it. You won't be able to convince yourself that it was a hallucination, because deep in your soul you know it was real, and it will haunt you. It will weigh you down. It will isolate you. Because how do you explain to someone who saw Jesus and Satan talking like old colleagues? How do you say you know the exact date of the return? How do you live normally with the knowledge that in 8 years the whole world changes? Tears started again. I don't know if I can carry this. You can, he said firmly, because you are not alone. Thousands around the world have had similar experiences in the last decades. Being prepared, some saw angels, some saw aliens, some had near-death experiences, some simply awakened spontaneously, but all carrying pieces of the same puzzle. And in the coming years, you will find each other. You will recognize each other. You will form a network of light that will sustain transformation. He began to move away, his body already beginning to lose solidity, becoming translucent. Wait, I called. One last question. Do you want Jesus to return? Do you want awakening to happen? He stopped, turned his face, illuminated by the first light of dawn, with an enigmatic smile. I want worthy opponents, Andre. I want humanity that consciously chooses, not sheep that follow blindly. I want a game that is worth playing, not an easy victory over losers. So yes, I want you to return. I want the final battle to be epic, and I want to see if this time your species finally grows. And then you come home, I asked, remembering Jesus' words. Maybe he said softly. Maybe when everything awakens, when all illusion dissolves, even the fallen angel will remember that it never really fell, that it was always part of the plan, that adversary and hero are roles in divine drama, not real identities. Maybe then I too will return, but not yet, not while there is still work to do. And then it completely disappeared as if it had never been there. Just me shivering on the empty road with the rising sun painting the sky pink and gold. I got into the car, not trusting myself to drive, but not being able to stay there. I sat, holding the steering wheel, trying to process the magnitude of what I had just experienced. And here's the hardest part to explain. I didn't sleep for 5 full days, not because of insomnia, but because every time I closed my eyes, I saw that crystal hall. I saw Jesus. I saw Satan. I heard their conversation. I felt the weight of the mission that was given to me. I went to bed at 11. I lay there, eyes closed, but my mind was completely alert, reliving every second, every word, every sensation, until dawn, when I gave up, got up, drank cold coffee, tried to function. During the day I taught classes, but it was like being on autopilot. Body speaking, mouth moving, but consciousness somewhere else. Students noticed. Teacher, "You are fine. You look different." And I just smiled vaguely and continued. I couldn't eat it all. It tasted like cardboard. My stomach was packed. There was a constant weight on my chest, as if I were carrying stones. I lost 4 pounds that first week, just by drinking water and forcing out occasional pieces of bread. Spontaneous crying happened. Without warning, I was driving and tears started. I was in the supermarket, and I had to leave to avoid breaking down publicly. I was alone at home, and I was sobbing so hard it hurt. It wasn't sadness exactly. It was emotional overload. It was overwhelming gratitude. It was the terror of what I knew. It was the loneliness of carrying truth that I couldn't share. It was everything simultaneously. I tried to talk to a therapist at the 5th appointment. I casually mentioned that I had had an intense spiritual experience, and she immediately started asking about history of mental illness, about drug use, about extreme stress, clearly worried that I was having a psychotic breakdown, so I stopped talking about it and said that it was better that it was just a phase. I tried to talk to the priest at the church my mother attended. I went to the confessional, vaguely describing that I had had a vision, and he said that the devil can disguise himself as an angel of light, that he should pray more, read the Bible, but not trust visions that come outside the church. So I realized that the church was not the place for this truth. Isolation was total. I couldn't talk to anyone. I had to process it alone. I had to carry weight alone, and it was almost unbearable. Friday night after meeting, I was sitting on the floor of the apartment at 3 in the morning looking at nothing when the phone rang. It was my daughter Julia calling in the middle of the night, something she never did. I answered with a racing heart. "Dad," she said in a small, scared voice. "I had a strange dream. I dreamed that you were shining, that there was light coming out of your chest, and the voice told me that you are fine, that you are going to be fine, that you have important work to do. I woke up and felt that I needed to call. Are you okay?" I started crying right there on the phone, crying so hard I couldn't speak. "Father," she said, alarmed. "What happened?" "I'm fine," I finally managed to say. "I'm fine, daughter, and your dream is right. I'm fine, and I'm going to be fine, and I have work to do. And I don't know how, but let's reconnect you and me and your mother, not in the old way, but in a new, better way." "I don't understand," she said, but her voice was relieved. "But I love you, Dad. I love you too," I whispered, "more than you know." After that call, something changed in me. I finally stopped resisting. I stopped trying to process logically. I simply accepted that it was true, that there was real weight that I needed to start working on. First step was to stop drinking. I threw all the bottles away. I just didn't want to anymore, because I realized I was using alcohol to numb sensations. But I needed to feel everything. I needed to be present completely. The second step was to begin the practice that Jesus had suggested during the vision, waking up before the sun, sitting in silence, taking a deep breath 3 times, feeling gratitude for things I didn't already have, as if I already had it, visualizing a transformed life, feeling the emotion of this future reality, decreeing with certainty I am healthy, I am connected, I am serving, I am awake. The first few days felt silly, talking to yourself, trying to feel gratitude for imaginary things, but you persisted because you promised. And in the 3rd week, synchronicities began. First was meeting an old friend from university who I hadn't seen in 15 years at a completely random gas station, and he started talking about how he had discovered meditation, how his life had changed, how he was studying quantum physics and spirituality, and there was light in his eyes, and I immediately recognized he was another catalyst. We exchanged contacts and started meeting weekly to discuss, and discovered that we had both had transformative experiences. It was a different encounter with a being of light during a near-death experience. But the essence was the same truth about the nature of reality, about the power of consciousness, about the coming transformation. The second synchronicity was receiving a completely unexpected email from Helena asking us to talk, saying that she had had disturbing dreams about me and that she felt something important had happened. We met in neutral coffee, and for the first time in a year, I was able to look into her eyes without pain, without resentment, just with genuine love and forgiveness. I told the edited version that I had had a spiritual awakening, that I was doing inner work, that I wanted to reconnect with her and Julia without expectations, without trying to rebuild marriage, just as family, just as souls who care. She cried and said she had it too, a sense called for change that wanted Julia to have a father present who was open to rebuilding the relationship. Third synchronicity was that a professional opportunity appeared out of nowhere. A colleague who was retiring recommended me for a better position in a private school with a 40% higher salary when I wasn't even looking for a job. Wednesday was finding the exact book I needed in a donation box on the street. A book about the law of attraction, about conscious manifestation, about quantum physics and spirituality, written by a scientist who had had his own awakening. 5th, 6th, 10th synchronicities happening almost daily now. Universe responding clearly to the new frequency life beginning to flow in ways we have never experienced. And body also changed. Chronic back pain that I had had for years gradually disappeared. Energy increased dramatically, began to need less sleep, waking up naturally at 5 in the morning, feeling refreshed. Face changed. He also looked in the mirror and saw a different person. Lines of concern, softening eyes with a shine that they didn't have before. Something in their expression more open, more present, more alive. New capabilities began to emerge. Sharpened intuition, knowing who was calling before the phone rang, knowing what people were going to say before they spoke, clearly feeling the energy of places and people. Dreams also changed. No longer chaotic, but lucid, traveling in other dimensions, having conversations with beings that I could not see while awake, receiving information and guidance. In a particularly vivid dream, 6 months after the meeting, I was in a place that looked like a church, but it wasn't just any church I knew, and Jesus was there again in human form, sitting on a simple bench waiting for me. I sat next to him, and he held my hand. "It's going well, Andre," he said in a voice full of pride. "You are remembering who you are. You are fulfilling a mission without even realizing it, because a mission is not about doing, it is about being." "I'm so scared," I confessed. "Fear of 2033, fear of not being ready, fear of failing you." "It cannot fail," he said gently, "because there is no test. There is only experience, there is only moment-to-moment choices. And you are choosing love. You are choosing consciousness. You are choosing service. That is all that is asked." But the world whispered. It's so broken, so divided, how 11% can transform everything. "Because the 11% most conscious carry more light than 89% asleep," he explained. "It is a law of spiritual physics that a small amount of awakened consciousness transforms a large amount of unconsciousness, just as a small candle illuminates a dark room, just as a small amount of yeast lifts the entire dough. And you will see signs of increasing violence and chaos before awakening, because old systems struggle to survive, because those invested in ancient power resist, because transformation always looks like destruction to those attached to what is transforming. But do not fear chaos, because chaos precedes new order. In the coming years, until 2033, you will see technology advance to the point of singularity. You will see revelations of hidden truths about governments, about corporations, about history. You will see an increase in extreme weather events. You will see collapse of financial systems. You will see more people waking up, but also more people falling into fear, everything accelerating, everything intensifying, approaching critical moment. And when Easter arrives in 2033, you will feel, he said. You will wake up that morning, and you will know why the frequency will change in your own body. You will feel activation in your chest, expansion in consciousness, connection with everyone else awakening simultaneously, and you will know without a doubt what moment has come, what return has happened, what new world has been born. I woke up from that dream with a renewed sense of peace that I hadn't felt since that night on the road, with deep gratitude for having been chosen for this small but essential role. And now, present narration, it is 2025, 9 years since that impossible meeting. I am 61 years old. My life is unrecognizable from what it was. Relationship with Helena and Julia is healed. We don't move back together, but we have deep friendship and genuine love. Julia is 24 now and is having her own awakening, asking questions that show she is ready. I work at a private school, not only teaching history, but mentoring students who show signs of sparking conversations after class about the meaning of life, about spirituality, about transformation, always in a way that respects their free will, planting seeds without forcing. Small group of catalysts formed in the region. There are 7 of us so far. We meet every fortnight, sharing experiences, practicing frequency-raising techniques, preparing for what comes. Everyone has had their own encounters with non-humans, or near-death experiences, or spontaneous awakenings, all carrying per puzzle people, all feeling called. But I carry trauma. I still wake up at 3 in the morning, often not from insomnia but from activation, feeling presence, feeling urgency, feeling the weight of the mission. I cry still happens less than before, but when I remember that crystal hall, when I see the faces of Jesus and Satan in the memory, when I consider the magnitude of what is coming, tears flow not from sadness, but from something beyond words, mixture of gratitude, reverence, and sacred terror. I haven't overcome it, I will never overcome it, because it's not to overcome it. It's to carry it. It's to live with it. It's to allow it to transform every moment, every choice, every interaction. I look at the calendar. I see 2025, and I know that there are 8 years. 8 years until Easter, of 2033, 8 years, until the moment that will change everything. And I feel in my soul that it is coming. I feel in the signs around the world becoming more chaotic, more divided, but also more people waking up, more light emerging. And I know that when that morning comes, when the sun rises on the transforming planet, I will be ready, along with thousands of other catalysts around the world, anchors of light maintaining a stable frequency, helping others to transition, helping a new world to be born. I don't know exactly what it will look like. I don't know all the details. I don't know if it will be as smooth as Jesus described or as chaotic as Satan suggested, but I know it's coming. I know deep down in my soul, for sure it can't be denied. And if you are listening to this now, if you have reached this point, if something in you is recognizing truth in these words, then it is no coincidence. Then you are also being prepared, so your soul also knows what is coming. You are not here by chance. Nothing in your life was an accident. Every pain you suffered, every loss you experienced, every moment of despair was preparing you, breaking you, molding you for your role in the Great Awakening. If you have always felt like you don't belong in this world, you were right, because you came here temporarily from a higher frequency to help transition. If you always questioned religious authorities, you were right, because you intuited that truth was being filtered, controlled, and distorted. If you always knew that there is more than physical reality, you were right, because your soul remembers dimensions that your mind forgot. And now you have the same choice I had on that road in Goiás. You can ignore this message. You can return to comfortable sleep. You can continue your unconscious life until circumstances force you to awaken, or you can consciously choose to awaken. Now you can start raising your frequency. You can start dissolving shadows. You can start practicing unconditional love. You can start preparing yourself for your role in what comes next. And if you choose to awaken, then listen to these practical instructions that Jesus gave me and that I have shared with other catalysts. Wake up before the sun whenever possible, because hours before dawn have a special energetic quality veil between dimensions, thinner connection with clearer source. Sit in silence for at least 10 minutes, breathing deeply. 3 full inhales through the nose and exhales through the mouth, releasing everything that is not useful. Then feel genuine gratitude. Don't just list things, but feel the emotion of gratitude in your chest. Let it expand throughout your body. Be grateful for things you already have, and also for things you don't yet have, as if you already had them, because this creates a frequency of abundance that magnetizes more. Visualize the life you want, not vaguely, but with specific details. See colors, hear sounds, feel. Textures create complete reality in mind, and especially feel the emotion of already living it, because emotion is the power of manifestation. Then decree out loud with certainty, not as a request, but as an affirmation: I am healthy, I am abundant, I am connected, I am love, I am awake. I serve the greater plan. Use words that resonate with you, but always in the present, always with certainty. During the day, observe your thoughts without judgment. Just observe when negative thought arises, notice, and consciously replace it with affirmative. Don't suppress it, because resistance creates persistence. Just acknowledge it. Be grateful for showing shadow that needs work, and choose better thought. Practice compassion, especially with those who irritate you, because they are mirrors, showing parts of you that you have not yet accepted. Every person is a teacher. Every situation is an opportunity for growth. Forgive yourself, especially because guilt is the lowest frequency that exists and traps you in a cycle of self-sabotage. Forgiving is not forgetting. It is not saying that everything was fine. It is simply letting go of weight that no longer serves you. And observe synchronicities, repeated numbers, unlikely encounters, impossible coincidences, because they are confirmations that you are on the right path, that the universe is responding, that you are not alone. Do this consistently for 30 days, and life will begin to change, not dramatically perhaps, but subtly. Energy improving, relationships flowing, opposed tunities arising, and most importantly, internal frequency rising, creating personal heaven here and now, not waiting for death or rapture but manifesting kingdom of God within as Jesus taught. And in the coming years until 2033, keep practicing, keep elevating, keep being silent. Light and other catalysts will cross your path. You will recognize and be recognized. You will form community. You will prepare together. And when Easter 2033 arrives, when that Sunday morning dawns, you will feel something changing. Activation in your chest, expansion in consciousness, sudden connection with everything awakened simultaneously around the planet. And you will know without a doubt that moment has arrived, that promise has been fulfilled, that new cycle has begun. It will not be the end of the world. It will be rebirth. It will not be judgment. It will be celebration. It will not be a chosen few, and the rest will be condemned. It will be an open invitation to all, with each one choosing through the frequency they maintain. If they remain in fear, they will remain in personal hell. If they rise to love, they will enter personal heaven. Simple as that, not cruel, just the natural law of vibration. And if this story touched something deep inside you, if you felt goosebumps at some point, if tears came without explanation, if something in you screamed, "Yes, this is true," then leave your like now, because a simple gesture helps the message reach other souls, ready like you were. And if you want to continue receiving awakening stories that reveal truths that have been hidden, that could be the exact key you need to awaken yourself, then subscribe to this channel now and activate the notification bell. Because each story shared here has the potential to plant a seed that will bloom at the perfect time, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe in 2033, but always at the right time. Leave in the comments, have you ever had inexplicable experiences? Have you ever felt the presence of something greater? Have you seen numbers repeated constantly? Do you feel that the date of planetary transformation is approaching? Are you ready to awaken Christ, consciousness within you share? Because your voice could be exactly what another soul needs to hear today to take the next step. And remember, you are not here by chance. You did not arrive at this video through a random algorithm. You did not stay until the end for entertainment. Your soul guided you here at this exact moment because it is ready to receive this truth, to carry this mission, to be part of the greater transformation that is sweeping the planet. Every pain you suffered was initiation. Every loss was purification. Every moment of despair was ego dying, so that the true self could emerge. You were prepared with surgical precision for exactly this moment in human history. Jesus' return is not him physically descending from the clouds surrounded by angels blowing trumpets, while unbelievers are left behind. This is a fantasy created by humans who wanted external rewards for obedience. True return is you awakening to the divinity that has always been within. It is you remembering that you and Jesus are one, that you and God are one, that you and all creation are one. That separation has always been the greatest illusion that has kept humanity trapped in a cycle of suffering. When you awaken Christ consciousness, when you remember your creative power, when you choose love over fear, in every moment, Jesus returns through you. Because Jesus was never just man who lived 2,000 years ago. Jesus is Christ. Consciousness is frequency of unconditional love, is divine potential that exists in every human being waiting to be activated. And on Easter 2033, this activation will happen simultaneously in critical mass, marking the beginning of a new era for humanity. Not new era in the diluted hippie sense, but literally new planetary era, fundamental frequency shift in collective consciousness that will make it impossible to continue old systems of war, greed, exploitation, because they simply cannot exist at a higher frequency. There will be resistance. Yes, those invested in ancient power will fight with everything they have, but it will be like trying to hold water with your hands. The more you squeeze, the more it escapes. Transformation is inevitable. Moment is predetermined, not by rigid destiny, but by the evolutionary moment that planetary consciousness has reached. And you are a crucial part of this. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every choice you make affects humanity's morphogenetic field. You are not an isolated drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in the form of a drop. When you change everything around you. When you awaken, you facilitate the awakening of thousands. So carry this truth with sacred responsibility. Live on high frequency, not perfectly because you are human, but intentionally be silent. Light wherever you go, without preaching, without converting, just being, and those who are ready will feel and ask, and you will share. And in difficult times, and there will be difficult times in the future, next 8 years, when doubt comes, when the world seems very chaotic, when you question whether any of this is real, remember that certainty you felt while listening to this story. Remember the shiver that ran down your spine. Remember that your soul recognized truth before your mind understood, and let that sustain you. You are a warrior of light. You are a catalyst for transformation. You are an anchor of a new frequency. You chose to be here at this specific moment in cosmic history, and absolutely nothing on your journey was a waste. Everything had purpose. Everything prepared you. Everything brought you exactly where you need to be now. And when Easter 2033 dawns, when you feel that activation, when you know without a doubt that moment has come, remember that someone told you 8 years before. Remember this story. Remember Andrew, who met Satan on the empty road and received truth that he could not deny. And remember that you also received truth today. And you have 8 years to prepare to fulfill the mission that your soul chose before you were born. The return of Jesus is not him descending, it is you awakening, and this awakening is coming faster than you imagine, prepared or not aware, or not resisting, or not. The moment will come, and the only question is whether you will be in the frequency to receive it, or whether you will be swept away by a tsunami of transformation. Choose now, choose consciously, choose to awaken, and when that morning comes, you will not be a victim of changes. You will be co-creator of a new world. You will be a midwife of a new era. You will be a witness and participant in the greatest transformation that humanity has ever experienced. And that, my friends, is all I can share. Everything that was shown to me, everything that I carried in silence for 9 years. And now I share it with you because you are ready, because the moment calls for it, because truth can no longer be hidden. Until the next story, and may you fully awaken before you are forcibly awakened. Because chosen, awakening is transformation. Forced, awakening is trauma. Choose wisely. Choose now. Choose love. And see you on the other side of the great transformation on new earth, with new humanity living in new frequency, as it was always destined since before the founding of the world. So be it, and so it is.